Let me know when you want to start.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special episode of Day Job. We are going to be live streaming my match against 0ur and another Titan of Netrunner DB. And we are going to have him commentating. So while the games are actually going on, I will be taking off my headphones, and Sanjay will be responsible for doing commentary. We're just having a little bit of technical stuff going on with my XSplit, but I think I figured it out. So we should be good to go. And I'm going to be taking off my headphones and muting my mic, and Sanjay is going to take it away from here.
All right, hello everybody. I am very excited to be commentating. I'm going to be commentating solo, so I expect there to be a noticeable decrease in quality because I don't have Dan to bounce off, but I will at least be bouncing off these two competitors. So looks like Dan is starting as Corp and Zero starting as Runner. We have a noise versus noise matchup today. And I don't know what kind of noise exactly we're dealing with, though we have a pretty good clue from what we're seeing from noise. We have dummy box, which is really interesting because I don't think DLR is legal. So I wonder, I'm not totally sure what dummy box is going to be doing. Maybe it's just a way to sort of slow down Dan from dealing with noise's resources. This is going to be an interesting matchup. I don't actually know what Dan's deck is exactly getting up to, but I guess it's door to door. And here is door to door, and here it is, come knocking. So that's a pretty good start, I would imagine, for Dan. Though 0ur might just say, "That is fine. I will take a tag, and I will take some more tags." So this is a very interesting matchup here. It's interesting that Zero elected to prevent the initial meat damage, or to prevent the initial tag. Suggests that he might not be going tag me. This is, yeah. I don't know so much about this matchup. It's interesting that Dan has one agenda in his hand, so Zero could probably turn off door to door if he needed to. But it looks like he's doing a little bit of setup. He's on the turn tag, but Dan has no money, so that's not such a big deal. And that IPO is a long way away from happening. Now, unlike the non-cache refresh version, I don't know how much recursion noise has for these account siphons, though we are seeing a daily cast, which means noise is on creation and control. So he probably has some same old things, and he has the deja vu. So we might see a lot of account siphons this game. And it's Zero's clearly just totally committed to tag me. Now, one thing that's interesting in this matchup is that Code Marvelous Dan is very knows about this matchup, being on the other side of it himself. That hard hitting news is not going to be very useful right now. The door to door being out is interesting here because the one meat damage that he's going to be taking every turn is going to be a nuisance, but probably not going to be that important. It hit the deja vu here though, so that is really welcome in terms of not getting siphoned too much. Though right now Dan is really on the back foot here. Noise being able to put really hard pressure with this medium, and Turnpike doesn't really do too much. And with Dan having no money, it's a little bit of a rough situation he's in here. If he can recover, he has things like IPO to res big ice that can maybe stop noise. And at least he has that door-to-door ticking, so that if Dan gets lucky, he can maybe pluck out some key cards with the meat damage. But I don't know. I feel like I like Zero's chances right now. So I guess right now I'm wondering, what is Dan thinking? How do I claw out of this? I think in server 1 he put out the news team, and Zero did not take the bait. One thing that's interesting here is that the mercs are able to just sort of invalidate door-to-door pretty well, which is harsh. Now, one thing that's interesting here is that I don't know Dan's specific agenda suite, but it's not looking like his R&D is not going to be incredibly agenda point rich, given that he has GFIs, he has quantum predictive models. All those are less points for Zero to take. So it should be interesting how hard Zero is able to pound R&D. He hasn't really checked the R&D since Dan was able to install the new ice. I don't remember what it was. Well, now Noise has his breaker, God of War, which is going to be stronger and stronger. I don't know what counterplay Dan has to that, whether he has like macrophages or something. I know that Zero and Dan both knew that both were aware that they were on Noise, so theoretically they could have slotted specific counterplay. I don't know if either of them stashed a macrophage in their decks or anything like that. So that's kind of interesting. Zero, interestingly, has Dean Lister, which is a really neat synergy with Obelisk and God of War in terms of not having to get quite as strong. And 0 Hour just scores at 15 minutes, which doesn't mean much as far as agenda points, but it does mean the door-to-door is gone. So even the minor nuisance of slowly weakening that Dragnia Mercs, Dan doesn't even have that. So this is a rough game for the Corp right now. They seem really on the back foot. And now they do have the ability to make a scoring remote. That's probably their best line of defense. And they do have access to those. Yeah, that's in the chat. Kayak says it's making news. Might as well have macrophage. That's true. I forget. Ariabot Tech is not in Cash Refresh. No, it can't be. I think it's in India, right? Sounds like it. So this is pretty welcome. The Sure Gamble, that might give Dan the opportunity to claw up to enough credits to start playing those IPOs. And that's a pretty big deal. I don't know what the ice is on HQ, but if Dan can slow 0 Hour's ability to siphon him into oblivion, that's going to be pretty important. And so we'll see if he's able to do that. Let's think about what tag punishment is there in Cash Refresh, and what could Dan have in his deck? I think All-Seeing Eye is Cash Refresh legal, though that's not terribly useful at the moment because 0 Hour has no resources. Closed Accounts, I think, was in Core Set, which is a nice thing to have. Shoot the Moon is not in Cash Refresh, so if you were hoping for Shoot the Moon, we're not going to be seeing it today. And Bad Times was in Spin Cycle? I think so. Yeah. Oh, of course. And of course, we have Boom and Scorched Earth. I guess those are tag punishment. And it looks like both Scorched Earth and Boom are would be minor annoyances to Zero right now. Now we might think from zero, from Dan trashing the Uragnia Mercs, that he might be on some kind of explosion plan. Yeah. Oh yeah. Chat is correcting me on my poor knowledge of tag punishment. So I appreciate that. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, even psychographics is legal, isn't it? And as Laura points out, you can't psycho Beal in Cache Refresh, but you can still psycho GFIs, which is pretty cute. All right, so 0 Hours laying down Dean Lister, and that's his rig between that and God of War. One of the best counters to God of War is Cache Refresh legal, but it is not. Oh, this is very interesting. So Dean Lister is only just able to get past that resistor, because that resistor is very strong right now. That's very fascinating. Dan doesn't look like Dan has the unresed things to res such that he can dodge the siphon, but he does still end with a decent amount of money. We see Dan drawing here, one of the concessions that Corpse must make, given that they have less good agendas in Cache Refresh. Paper Trail, sort of near and dear to my heart, insofar as I got totally wrecked by a Paper Trail in the last round when I was playing a All Connections noise deck, and I had a Jemison deck. I should stop telling this story because a very important thing is happening. Noise is using counter surveillance to access all of Dan's hand here, which, assuming he can get past this this resistor, is going to be worth 6 points, which is quite a few of them, especially with server 2 being 2 more points, assuming I've been tracking what has been installed where. Now Zero has Dean Lister and can get God of War to strength, I believe, especially with the data suckers, but he's electing to make Dan trace him. And he can make the trace quite big, and Dan is spending all his money to dissuade Zero from getting in. And that is quite a blow. Now Dan has this awkward agenda lying naked in server 2 that he can't afford to really advance without letting Zero know that he can come take it. Now I suppose he could bluff that it's a quantum predictive model, but you'd still check there. If Dan had a meat damage win condition, that Mercs is going to really make that harder to pull off, especially with the dummy box protecting it. So it looks like next turn, Zero is going to play Mars for Martians and power his way through R&D and very likely get the win. Now, if there's a resistor on R&D, that's probably Dan's best bet for an ice that can keep Zero out. But this is looking pretty dire. Actually, one thing that's interesting here is that we're seeing exactly why Zero decided to put Dummy Box in the deck. That he's able to really sort of build good tempo by installing his things before the turn he wants to go pummel R&D or pummel HQ, and even though he's going tag me, looks like we might have a little bit of confusion in the chat between about how DummyBox is working. Okay, we're good. And Code Marvelous is not getting the draws he needs to claw out of this hole. It's not good to be slightly flooded and your opponent on 6 agenda points. A very cute thing about this dummy. I'm just going to type clarification for cool. All right, got that straightened out. Yeah, I think unfortunately here, Zero is able to keep Dan from really building a place to put the agendas. He was able to leverage such good central pressure that Dan had to dedicate all the IC Drew to protect his centrals, and in doing so, the agendas just kept on building up in R&D, and here we are. Now that resistor, or that turnpike, is actually going to be working against Dan here, because I believe it's going to allow him to access one more card than he otherwise would have. I suppose we could probably count agendas here and figure out exactly how likely it is Dan survives this. It's not very likely, I don't think. Interesting note, if you're looking on Jinteki here, Zero drew the cards before he accessed, which is not the right way to work. I've heard that it's a very difficult it's a very difficult bug to fix. Anyway, Zero successfully steals the 7th agenda point. It was even 15 minutes, which is kind of rude, I think, because you're not supposed to have that in your score area as the runner. And we're gonna have we're gonna see the other round. So I'm gonna duck out of this game and try and join the next one. Yeah, so I don't know. I think that was not especially close, but I don't know what Dan should have done differently. I was really impressed by DummyBox there in terms of it giving Zero some options that he wouldn't otherwise have. Ooh, 0-hour is on Potential Unleashed. And he is mulliganed into a very gnarly looking hand there. We'll have to see how aggressive he is here. He's using the Kamainu to protect HQ and the DNA tracker to protect R&D. So, and he has the money to res one of them, which is pretty welcome. It looks like Dan does not have quite the same powerful start against Zero that Zero had against him. It's interesting to know, it's interesting to see what exactly is Dan's influence spread. Now, that was very unfortunate in terms of Dan installing his data sucker to mill a card, only to mill a breach dome. That is some bad luck. And that breach dome hit a medium even. Not the greatest sequence of events, but at least he has the Tapworm going, which we'll have to see if Zero purges immediately, and he does not. Looks like Zero doesn't want to deal with his agendas right now and is using Special Report, a very nice card to deal with Agenda Flood in Cache Refresh, to get some new cards, and these new cards are spicy. Zero-hour's deck looks mean. Oh, cool, and we're looks like he's playing Synth DNA modification, which is a pretty cool card. Dan has looks like he is getting. He's got God of War down, and he has the account siphon in hand, so he can think about starting to take money. 0ur himself has drawn so much Operation Econ that Dan's really not in a position right now to siphon him into the dust, though that Tapworm is doing work. I don't know how much money he's made off it already, but it looks like that Tapworm itself has gained him about 7 credits, which is pretty good for a zero-cost program. Ooh, that's mean. So 0 has a macrophage, and Dan, I do not believe, can break this. Not with that God of War. We'll have to. What's going to happen with the traces here is pretty interesting because both Dan and 0 have a lot of. Oh, I forgot. Oh, silly me! I forgot that God of War could even boost itself. I was thinking of that cute turtle, Amakua, I think. So Dan does spend a pretty big bunch of credits to break the macrophage. And it looks like he's able to just pick up that medium and take it out of the game, and he's able to get past the end of the run. Oh, exciting! There's a future perfect there, so this is going to be a pretty interesting side game. Dan only has 1 credit. 0 doesn't get cute with things, and he spends 2 to make sure Dan can absolutely not get in. What an archives run. That is painful. Not getting the future perfect, getting the Shikyu, and just getting another little punch from Breachstone. And it is a punch because it's meat damage. That is unfortunate. So Dan is pretty low on credits now. At least he has the Armitage code busting to bounce back up. And now he runs into a psychic field, losing more of his stack. And this is a rough time because 0 does have some Obacadas in there. Looks like he's got a lot of things that say you need to spend cards to take my agendas, and he needs to get 8 agenda points from 0, and he does not. And he only has 22 cards in his stack and 5 cards in his hand to do it. Oh, cool! Kayak in the chat, letting me know that they are using my grape juice build, and they put turtle in it, and they are doing good work, and that sounds terrifying to me. Ooh, there's another macrophage. This is a nightmare. Every ice that Dan has encountered so far has been a macrophage, which is rough. And Dan is spending the money to get God of War strong enough to get through. Well, at least if this ice is, we know this is the Kamainu, which 0ur could res, and Dan does not have great ways to deal with it. He's electing to keep his money and his virus tokens, and he's just gonna take some credits. Oof. So 0ur is in a very good position right here. Dan's stack is looking a little tiny. Now, what is good for Dan is that he has. So there's a few things that are good for Dan. One, he does know where one agenda is. The Future Perfect is lying in archive, so as a desperation play, he can go try and get it. He has counter surveillance right here to get a bunch of cards. Hopefully they play this out right, because Dan drew the 8 cards before accessing the cards in R&D. I forget exactly how many he had before drawing. So hopefully they played that out right. Because he does actually get an Obokata protocol, which is pretty good. Kayak, levy is legal. It is only in creation and control, so only runners who have used creation and control have access to it. It does look like Dan has selected creation and control, but at the same time, I don't know how much influence he has for it. So I don't quite know what we should do about this in terms of rewinding the game state. I mean, we could just put the Obokata back. Now we should be able to put the Obokata back. This is going to be a little painful to rewind, because Dan also milled a bunch of cards. I really should have stepped in earlier. I think as long as we have, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have stepped in. Oh well, yeah. Well, I have now. I think as long as the rewind is mutually acceptable to the players, I'm happy with it. Yeah, yeah, that's tricky. Well, here we are. I guess the thing to do now is to try and steal. Okay, so looks like Dan has assessed the board state and thinks that things are pretty unwinnable at this point, which is probably correct. Yeah, so I never know it's complicated. I guess it's complicated when you see a error on stream. Um, yeah, especially with that Ben Masashi, I think Dan's probably pretty correct in his assessment that this game wasn't really winnable from this point on, because he just didn't have the cards remaining to take the agendas he needed. Because it looks like 0 hours agenda complement is probably yeah, I think it's a I think there's the thing about it is that in I have to review what the FFG floor rules are for spectators and judges watching a game. Because in general the floor rules are really good, and so I should go check to see what they say about them because I think next time I'm in this situation, I should be able to act with knowledge that I'm doing something recommended by people who have thought a lot about it. Certainly, if in general, I think the FFG floor rules are wonderful. If you are ever judging an event, read them beforehand. It's like they give you a lot of guidance on a bunch of different situations. Yeah, so, hey, Dan.
So
those were some rough games. I don't know. Firstly, I want to.
Dummy Box is super fucking good.
I know it's pretty brutal. I mean, looking at the game, I don't know what you could have done differently in either game.
I could have not cheated at that noise game.
Yeah, well, I mean, so I'm not sure whether I was correct to step in. Certainly, if I was going to step in, I should have done it way earlier.
It's such a dumb bug that Obelisk happens before on Jinteki, because since I primarily play this deck online, I always forget that the trigger happens after the access.
So I just feel stupid about it because as you were accessing, I said, I don't know how many cards Dan started with in hand. I hope it doesn't come up. And it didn't come up. Like, I kind of wish I was like, hey, everybody, just remember. I mean, I guess I don't want to give away that he's on Avocado Protocol, though, like, of course he is. I think you played well. I think, and also, I don't think I've seen your noise list, and I like it.
I don't know. I think I might get Dummy Box in because that seems really good for this deck because it means that you can keep the counter surveillances down. You don't have to play the whole combo on one turn.
Yeah.
And then people are attempting to trash stuff without knowing if they're actually going to be able to get it or not.
Yeah, that's the thing I don't quite like about Dummy Box from just like a play standpoint, that it's like random. It's like, I sure hope you don't have one. And in that way, it's like even more brutal than say Fall Guy, because
at least you know if the Fall Guy's on the team.
Yeah, you know how many Fall Guys they have, and like in a deck with they've got 7 cards, 8 cards because of Obelisk. You're like, gosh, they probably have a resource, but if they don't, that's a tough situation you're in.
That's why I was just like, well, All-Seeing Eye, I can just be like, let's check everything.
Yeah, how many resources do you have? That's actually Dummy Box is even pretty good against All-Seeing Eye.
Yeah, because especially I was trying to draw into it before he got the Obelisk draw, because when he had like 3 cards in hand, I could have been like, surprise, and unless his whole hand is resources, it all would have been gone.
Yeah, definitely. Now, what kind of tag punishment do you have in that deck, if you don't mind?
I have 2 here. Let's go look at it.
Oh, cool.
I have 2 psychographics, an All-Seeing Eye, I have a Closed Accounts, and I have a Boom, and I have an Archive Memory to become an additional copy of any of those cards.
Oh, that's cool.
My noise deck, I had Levy and System Seizure, but I took it out for a double Tapeworm.
Yeah, Tapeworm did a lot of work there.
Because if I'm not siphoning, I'm still gaining the money I need to do my combo.
Yeah, that seems great.
Kevin Tame in the chat scouting.
Oh yeah, because Kevin Tame is doing pretty well this tournament. He's going to be up against Internet Potato, I believe, later on tonight.
But yeah.
I think I might commentate that game too.
Oh, who's streaming it?
Internet Potato, Doug. He's going to try out streaming.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't think he's done it before, and so I mean that's rad.
0h0ur, aka Brian, is in the chat. Sorry for playing this corp deck. He says to me as I'm playing door to door. Which is funny because that noise deck is like the one deck that's just like, oh, you want to give me a tag? Okay.
Yeah, I was actually a little confused why he didn't just take the tag initially, because he paid down the first one.
I think he was trying to. I mean, he could speak for himself, but I think probably what was going on is he was thinking maybe depending on what happened, he might pay down the tags from the first siphon to give him a little bit more breathing room.
Yeah, that makes sense. And John, if I'm remembering last names correctly, you are our very esteemed organizer. Am I correct about that? Am I remembering things correctly? You're the Fighting Walloon, and a great guy.
Who's
as far as I know?
Walloon?
John, I think. Maybe I shouldn't be outing people and their internet handles on in front of an audience of tens.
Tens, yeah. I have a confession to make, Sanjay.
What's that?
I was zero cool.
Whoa, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
That was bad. I got my ass whooped live on camera.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that, like, if you're gonna get your ass whooped live on camera, you want it to be because you got crushed by somebody else's deck, and not because you made lots of stupid decisions. So you at least have that.
I'd say the most brutal thing about playing this type of kind of grindy tag-based deck is the absence of Jackson to deal with Flood is ridiculous. Like, you saw, I'm just like, well, I guess that's another agenda instead of a tag punishment card. I guess my hand is just getting super nutrient rich, and I can't ever really pitch agendas.
Yeah,
like,
do you have special report?
No, I should probably get it in.
Yeah, it's a good one. Especially, yeah, like it's certainly no Jackson, but it does fix. Yeah. It does help with agenda flood in a big way.
I would probably cut a news team, a copy of psychographics, and a hard-hitting news, and get in 3 special report.
Yeah, that seems good. I like news team, but I don't know if they're doing enough.
Just cut the news teams and get in 3 special reports.
Yeah, yeah. Though the news teams seem really good with your tag punishment. Yeah, it looks. This deck has been doing pretty well for you, right? You're.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing pretty well. I think me and Brian are table 6.
Nice.
But I'm not there anymore.
Yeah. Unfortunately, my opponent wasn't able to. Was having computer trouble, so I'm not playing this round. So my noise deck is 0-3, and now I guess it's 1-4 or 1-3, which I didn't think was going to happen.
Yeah, I don't know. Right now, I'm just in general. I'm on a quest for a corp deck in constructed that I like to start working on for rotation. But yeah, I don't know. Once rotation happens, I think there's going to be all sorts of interesting stuff. But yeah. Anyway, Sanjay, I really appreciate you taking time out of your evening to commentate my game.
Oh man, solo commentary is rough. I felt so much less charming.
Well, I'm sure you did a great job, and I'm sure
thank you.
Our fans agree. And
all right.
I'm actually going to be moving over to my Twitch to play some video games. So
nice. So I don't mean to
some of you there.
Yeah, I don't mean to counter promote you, but I'm probably gonna go commentate the another game now with Doug and Kevin.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, but Dan's Twitch is wonderful, and you should definitely check it out in general, and maybe even tonight if you feel like it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be playing for a while. I don't know, but anyway, yeah, man. All right. Everybody, thank you for tuning in, and if you want to continue helping me do more and more content, please check out the links below. Consider becoming a patron of the show. And if monthly contributions aren't your thing, there's also a tip jar that can just help show your support and help us improve equipment and other things. Sanjay, as always, thank you.
You're welcome.
And everybody watching at home, until we see you all again, always be running.
See ya.